Let me know. Okay,
All
three, two,
right, it's
one.
working.
Great. Okay. Welcome everyone to the Ad Hoc Study Committee meeting at 6:02 on 6/11/2025. And the meeting is officially called to order. With us present are Council members Goldstein, Najelski, Eichner, Shanahan, and we're also joined by Chief of Staff Tom Livingston. See if I'm not missing anyone else. And our Director of Sustainability, Jody Trudler. Next is public participation. Jody, do we have anyone with their hands raised that would like to speak?
Yes, we do have someone with their hand raised.
Okay, as a reminder, you have 3 minutes to speak directly to an item on the agenda. Otherwise, we'll have to move on. Please state your first name or last name and address, and then you can proceed. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep. Good evening, Chair Lopez. Thank you for those instructions. Like a co-pilot here. My name is Diane Loricella, 21 Little Fox Lane, for the record. I look forward to today's discussion, especially of the task force, the utilizing, I believe you're calling it the Community Sustainability Task Force. I do think that's a great idea. And I had spoken to Jody Trendler and others over time about some reference to this, and that included originally the Mayor's Energy and Environmental Task Force, which I had been, as a volunteer, tasked with formulating for Mayor Rilling when he first was elected. And in it, we had people from across, volunteers from across the spectrum of Board of Ed, including the finance and facilities committees and policy. And of course, we had people from different parts of city agencies, including Conservation Commission, etc. We had the volunteers, not the staff. And the intention was to take on some projects. Unfortunately, we only got to, I think, 2 or 3 projects. There was a limitation due to the chairman's view, Mr. Kites, of what role this group could play. It only lasted about 1.5 years, unfortunately, but it set a nice foundation. We did have something that I put together with the help of the committee, and that was the task force, and that was a terrific, it was Earth Day set, an Earth Day energy event that was held in the community room. And I will speak with Ms. Trendler and others, because I think that would be a good thing for the community going forward, that talks about how to handle solar, geothermal, etc. So I
Okay.
look forward to the
Yep.
discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diane. Jody, do we have anyone else that has their hand raised?
We do not.
Okay, so that closes public participation. Now, next item of the agenda is acceptance of the meeting notes from May 14th. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Council Member Shanahan. Any corrections or deletions? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor? Nora, I'm just waiting for Nora and Josh. Okay, Josh, okay. And there we go. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so next item of the agenda is discussion on the structure of the committee task force that Jody had proposed and added a little bit of tweaks, but nonetheless, it's something that we want to discuss and get everyone's thoughts on. Jody, if you want, I can turn it over to you and you can kind of give us an update on any sort of changes and take it from there. Thank you, Jody.
Sure, thank you. So the original proposal that we had discussed last time included specific potential community members that would be beneficial to have as members of such a task force, with the idea being to help increase community participation in this effort, because sustainability is going to take a village, way more than certainly those who are working on it can do. And with that, as I was looking at it and researching it and thinking about structure a little bit more, what popped up was that we have several boards and commissions of our 48 And if we're looking at sustainability, the way to think about sustainability is making sure that we have our 3 pillars of sustainability covered. So obviously the people, the human components of sustainability, the planet, so the environmental components of sustainability, and then our economic components. And we could pretty much classify the majority of our boards and commissions into those. And then the ones that are remaining are actually fall under more governance and operations. So as we work on and develop our sustainability plan, our climate resilience and sustainability plan, the way each one of our current boards and commissions actually can help fill in those pieces and those gaps. So we essentially already have groups of people in our community working on several of the components that fall under sustainability that are already doing the work. The issue is that it's not coordinated. So the different constituents, the different boards and commissions aren't working directly together to coordinate efforts and come together, in a directed fashion. So it's not strategic, so to speak, with one purpose in mind of improving sustainability, even though that's what everyone is doing. So I wanted to have you all discuss ideas on the potential for aligning our current boards and commissions with such a mission. So whether that would be, having the chairperson from each board or commission that falls under each category, coming together to help just coordinate efforts and cross-pollinate ideas and make sure that, we're not being inefficient in our efforts so that everyone knows what the other one is doing. Or the other way to structure it, which is what my initial vision was, how I've worked with other communities on this, is setting up specific communities for, each committees for, if we have a new commission, sustainability task force, whatever it would end up being, and have it focused on the more broadly focused, I suppose, is the best way to say it. So we would focus on, energy, transportation, waste, natural resources, building and development, natural resources, and community wealth building. So there's a couple of different ways, different ways that it could be structured. Actually, I don't know. Am I allowed to show a document if it hasn't been submitted with I have our boards and commissions listed out as like where they fall.
Lisa.
You can show that.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
okay. Thank you.
Okay. Let me share that then. Just helps with the visualization to understand. Okay, is it showing?
Yes.
Am I sharing? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so of our 48-ish boards and commissions, all of these commissions fall underneath the human component of sustainability. Then we have these that fall primarily under the environmental or ecological component. And then these are the economic development commissions that are, that are already in existence. And then all of these are primarily operations and governance. So a lot of policy and things that don't directly align or they overlap. So there's a couple in here that I do have overlapping. So like parks and recs and land use and building management. So there's a few that definitely overlap because as we know, sustainability, everything overlaps. So, but the task force could be structured as, having our human component come together or our ecological, categories come together, or our economic development entities coming together. Or it could be something where, the chairperson from each of these comes and meets to discuss and align. There is one critical missing piece, though, and that is the energy. There is not anything that specifically addresses any of these entities that are addressing energy, which for sustainability and everything that our climate action and sustainability resilience plan is going to be revolving around, pretty much focuses around energy. So it's tied into somewhat with buildings and building and development, but that's the one piece that's missing that would need to be included in this. So I would love to get your thoughts on structuring it. It just seems like there's already so much that's already being done that, we could benefit from. And then the other idea too, and these are community members, so I do have the council commissions in here as well. But these boards and commissions are staffed by community volunteers, so it is already, public engagement and community engagement. But Johan was talking about, it's like, how do we increase that participation, on a broader context, and engage more people. So I don't know, Johan, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jody, for the explanation. And this is great how you kind of disaggregated it across these four categories. It certainly helps as a foundational framework moving forward. At first glance, what comes to mind is having the chair as a representative from each group that'll be part of this larger group. I mean, I think that will help make all efforts towards sustainability more cohesive. Everyone has a better sense of what others are doing. There's learning that will be involved across different committees, and ensures that everyone's really talking to one another, and they could even work on sort of objectives, depending on what they decide to do, and stuff like that. And then with respect to the components, I think the component when it comes to offering a platform or offering membership to those individuals, those residents that are not on boards or commissions, but would still like to participate. I think that's something I think it's very important, given that we have so many members in our community that are involved in so many different things that are not part of any formal commission. So those are my thoughts. I'll leave it to anyone else that has any thoughts on what we're discussing on the structure of this committee.
I have a question. I don't know if you can see my hand because of the.
Oh, no, I don't see, but go ahead, Lisa. I can hear
sorry.
you. Sorry.
I know that like part of the comic strip is missing. So are you imagining that you're going to be reaching out to environmental groups in Norwalk too? Because they're not represented, I don't think, in all of these. I'm looking through the different piles and I don't see.
Correct. This is just internal current existing city boards and commissions.
Oh, so you're not going to reach out to that. So the second thing is, I mean, this is like a huge number of groups. I mean, how do we make it effective? Because when you have so many different groups, I mean, some of these are, you'll have some representation from the public, I guess, from the Conservation Commission and the 5 Mile River Commissions and things like that. But it just feels unwieldy group of people.
So I'm envisioning the driver behind this being the climate action and sustainability and resilience plan. So once that is finalized and we have targets set for reducing emissions, our drivers will focus around that a lot. But again, that will be the primary driver of tasks and things to be accomplished. However, a lot of things in the climate action plan would not be included, such as many of the human factors. So community health, safety, all of those things. So yeah, that's what we need to, wanted your ideas and your input for is to see how you would like to see it structured, because yes, I know this doesn't even get into the myriad of amazing community organizations that are out there. And then the general community members too, that aren't involved with what we have here. So.
Right. And Jody, a question that comes up based on what Lisa just mentioned is, I'm assuming we might be able to, if we decide to move forward, we might be able to consolidate or kind of make this list a bit smaller, depending on the level
Yes.
of urgency, depending on, a bunch of different parameters. I think this is just like a first glance of what boards and commission actually exist. And so I'm assuming that at some point we'll kind of consolidate and make this smaller. And we are going to reach out to, correct me if I'm wrong, Jody, to other community organizations as well. Yeah, so that way, this becomes a stronger force when it comes to environmental issues. So I do agree with Lisa that it certainly seems unwielding at first glance, but I think we can be able to consolidate.
I concur.
Okay. Anyone else has any thoughts or ideas?
Josh has his hand up.
Oh, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, all I was gonna say, and I do agree with Lisa on that's a lot of people. And the more people you have in the room, especially when it reaches certainly a pretty high number, the efficacy is going to be lower. So I think you're going to need representatives of a bunch of committees or commissions. And obviously the Common Council can kind of represent itself. And I think that this is essentially a committee of committees. It's like the Avengers of committees. And I don't know if, I think there's going to be some more planning that will need to be required here. Because not to say that we shouldn't do it. I don't think that at all. I think we want to be the greenest city. That's an initiative set by the mayor, and whoever wants to be the mayor afterwards, I think, likely feels the similarly, but I think we need to refine this one a little bit.
Thanks, Josh. And yeah, certainly from what I understand from Jody's proposal, it would be just maybe like the chairs. It's not going to be every single member of all the committee. Otherwise, it'd be way too large.
I'm saying even that's a lot of people. That's 35 people. And if you've ever seen the Stanford Board of Representatives, that's 40 people, and they can't do anything. So
that's a good point.
I'm just saying you want to be cautious on the number of people, and not every committee really does cross over with sustainability, I think, in the way you might think it does. So I think this list could get refined a couple different ways.
Right. And Jody, thanks, Josh. And Jody, to just back to you. What was the impetus behind the reason to do this? Did you notice that there was not much sort of collaboration or between these groups? Did you notice that they weren't really sure what the other one was doing, or there was some overlap?
Primary motive was to essentially not consolidate efforts, but just make sure that if things are applying and are happening in one board or commission, the other groups are aware of it. And it's primarily, honestly, driving it is a data tracking and impetus. So it's a way to keep track of, monitor, and measure efforts that are happening, so that if something is being proposed or done, let's say at the Bike Walk Commission, that is being transferred to a more holistic picture of what the city is doing. So for instance, there's a scooter program. So if we can track that data, get them to track that data and bring that in, we can count those as emissions reductions efforts. So, you know, if we know how many people are using scooters and, you know, how far they're going, it's ideally a way to help measure and monitor actions that we're doing. So the way that, so I started and ran the task force in my last city, and I've helped others start theirs. And the way that it's been set up is it's not all these people meeting together all at once all the time. So it's generally, you know, committee work. So if we have somebody who's working, you know, groups that are working on, or a group that's working on, focused on natural resources, you know, they'll be working individually, you know, or separately. It's not, it wouldn't necessarily be, there's a lot of committee work. So it's not necessarily everyone coming together all the time. So maybe the monthly meeting would be where everyone comes together and provides that update so that, you know, and it wouldn't have to be everybody coming together. So
So essentially there'll be subcommittees depending on
yes,
the project or initiative they're undertaking. Okay, cool.
yes.
I think, great. Okay. Any more questions, suggestions? I'm sure you're going to keep
I had
refining
my
this.
hand raised to
Oh,
just make
I can't
exactly
see
that
you.
suggestion. Like, I
There we
think
go.
it's
Okay,
going to
sorry.
work better in subcommittees. So if you filter that out, I think that would start to get you there. And then maybe the subcommittees could be represented in, you know, with one chairman or something like that from all of the groups. I just feel like it's
Yes.
just too unwieldy this way. So that could work.
Yes. Yeah,
Great.
this is
Thank
more
you,
of
Lisa.
an example to show you what we have, you know, like we've got a lot of the pieces there. So it's just a matter of how we want to structure it to come together so that we can better manage our
And I
efforts.
think the data collection aspect of this is fantastic because there's no doubt a lot of times where the right hand doesn't know what the left is doing. And I think that part of the idea, especially when it comes to sustainability measures, is crucial. And that we have had struggles with data collection and that sort of like IT infrastructure work. And this is a great reason to do it. So I think you're on to something here. I think that's a really, really great part of the idea.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, cool. Anyone else have any suggestions? And we're going to continue the conversation, obviously, and stuff like that as we move up. Nora, over to you.
I sent you a text message because I don't think you're gonna be able to hear.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Give me just a quick second. Yeah, so Nora's pretty much that she does like the idea at least once or twice, if not regularly, getting all the commissions in the planning category together, an opportunity to talk about their respective roles, any overlaps, gaps, possible consolidations, rearrangements, etc. So start from there and build out. Don't buy off too much all at once, but also don't stop with the current with the organization that or the commissions and boards that currently exist. And yes, so that's essentially what Nora just mentioned. Thank you, Nora. I didn't see your text. Okay, anyone else? Anything else? No, Nora hasn't. Okay, great. Okay, Jody, so thank you for that. We will continue the conversation on this task force, and we can now move on to the next business, which is a global covenant of mayor's commitment. So I will turn it over to you, Jody.
Okay, so this ties into the next phase of the climate action and sustainability planning that needs to happen. So we do have a baseline of our greenhouse gas emissions, and so our next thing that we need to do is set targets and identify ways that we are going to reduce our emissions. So and the way that we'll do that is we'll identify different sectors. And so this very much ties into the task force and boards and commissions. So based upon the ways to most effectively reduce our emissions, that is how that's how we set up the previous task force that I've led. And so in setting those targets, one of the things that we need to do is to align with the International Panel for Climate Change recommendations. And so that's essentially what joining the Global Covenant of Mayors is. Let's see, I can share the slides of this presentation quickly. Sorry. My screen showing?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. All right. So the Global Covenant of Mayors for Energy and Climate, what it is, oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. So essentially, what is it? What's the commitment and why should we join? So this is, it's like it says, it's the mayors from across the globe and leaders across the globe who have come together and decided to say that essentially local efforts and municipal efforts are the most effective way to make impacts on emissions and committing to working on making ambitious, measurable, planned climate action. So there's over 14,000 cities that are already signed on to it. And this was part of an initiative that was started by Mayor Bloomberg. And again, when he was mayor. And again, he was one of the mayors who was leading the edge on this, just the basic history of it. So the initial premise started from the mayor, Marcos Savok, I can never say his name right, Savokic. And so he had started it in Europe. And shortly, a few years after that, that's when Mayor Bloomberg got involved, and then they decided to merge and come together. And so they've been acting as a single unit since then. And it's overseen by this Bloomberg C40 Cities Leadership Initiative, Local Governments for Sustainability, or ICLEI. They have global locations. They operate here primarily. They operate here in the U.S. C40 is in the U.S. And then over in the EU is the United Cities for Local Governments, and then the UN also has involvement, and they're global, obviously. Their mission is to help local governments and networks that support them in bridging the gap from climate ambition to action and delivery. So what they provide is they have three main programs, and one of them is the Data for Cities, which is a software tool for managing and monitoring emissions. The Innovate for Cities, which it helps with the urban planning primarily, and then the Invest for Cities, which provides funding. So by signing on to this, it does help increase funding potentials. So, it's like we need to act collectively on our sub-national levels. So essentially, what is the commitment? You should have all gotten the commitment letter draft. So we want to make sure that we're increasing sustainable energy and making sure that our planet environment is healthy, and then making sure that we are acting as efficiently as possible to meet targets. So this is the general path that's laid out if you're going to join the Global Covenant of Mayors. But the good news is, excuse me, is that when you sign the pledge, so in order to join, it's essentially the mayor needs to sign a pledge saying that, yes, our community is committing to this effort to reduce emissions. And we're going to reduce emissions and help our communities be as resilient as possible through adaptation and mitigation measures, and track our progress and report it. The good news is that Norwalk is already on that path. So by having already done the sustainability and resilience plan with the greenhouse gas emissions inventory, and then having somebody in a sustainability position, those are already big steps on the pathway to getting there. So essentially what we need to do now is start the implementation process. So, and that's where we're at. So you can see within 1 year, you're expected to do a greenhouse gas inventory. We've already done that. Supposed to evaluate hazards, and we've already done that in several of our plans. And there's a new community flood resilience plan that's going to be done. That's also going to be examining those issues. We have several plans that I've already looked at many of the components to this. And then the next step is to set targets, which is partially done, but it needs to be augmented with what we currently have. And then assess our vulnerabilities and work towards addressing those vulnerabilities, which Norwalk is already doing. And then making sure that we have an action plan to continue this and then monitor and report it. So there's 2 communities in Connecticut. So New Haven and Bridgeport have signed on. And so like I said, what are the other benefits? It's a way to, by joining this, by signing on to this effort, essentially it's proving that we're not greenwashing. It's like, okay, we're not just saying, we're the greenest city. It's actually backing up what we're saying. So we're already ahead of a lot of communities in Connecticut. So, and it does align with Sustainable Connecticut efforts as well. So there's a lot of overlap there. So again, they provide support. There's a lot of financial opportunities, which is really critical at this point in time. And there's resources and tools that are available. So that's pretty much it. We need to act on our local level as much as we can. So.
Great. Thank you so much, Jody. Does anyone have any questions or comments for this proposal? No? Okay. So Jody, what is required to move forward with this
Yes.
commitment, with this pledge?
So we have to discuss it with the mayor to see if he's on board with doing this. And then it would need to go to council for final approval. And then it needs to be submitted to the US. I think it goes to C40 cities. It needs to go to the US Oversight Committee.
Got it. Do we have an opportunity to make any sort of suggestions or provide any sort of any suggestions with respect to the letter?
Oops, where did it go? Let's see. The letter is pretty much, it's it's written for us, and it's what we have to agree to essentially in order to do this. So the letter, specifically within 3 years of this commitment, we pledge to develop, adopt, and use regularly report on the following: community scale greenhouse gas inventory, an assessment of climate risks and vulnerabilities done, ambitious, measurable, and time-bound targets to reduce emissions. That will be done very soon. Ambitious climate change adaptation vision goals based on quantified scientific evidence. We have that through our plans and studies that we've already done. An ambitious and just goal to improve access to secure, sustainable, and affordable energy. That is something that's missing, but I will be working on. And formally adopted plans addressing climate change mitigation and low emission development, which we have. And it's going to be improved and made even more implementable and practical. So yeah, it's pretty limited. It's like we have to sign. It's like, this is the letter and this is what you're agreeing to. So yeah, we don't have flexibility with the letter.
Got it. Okay. Tom, if you, oh, I was just gonna call on you, Tom. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Tom.
no, if I might. Look, I mean, this letter would be signed by the mayor, but certainly we want the council to be behind it, right? And
Yeah.
so it's not something that he will do on his own.
Right.
And so I think we can talk separately about how best to, I mean, let's not be the letter, but maybe it's a resolution of the council, maybe, I'm not sure exactly how to proceed with in terms of, for lack of better words, getting the council's buy-in and support, because it's gonna require actions by the city going forward. And so I think it's important that everybody be on the same page. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
yeah, the mayor's just not gonna sign it without anybody, without the council.
Right. No,
Right,
it's got to go to council.
Yeah, that's why I asked if we could, yeah, there'd be time or space for that and
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's-
Yes.
that's, yeah, okay, great. Jody, this is fantastic. Between the task force, oh, hold on, let's see this. I think Nora just texted me because she can't raise her hand. Nora is asking, are we planning on doing any of this before the next election?
Ideally, that would be great.
Okay, well, all right, Nora.
But
if you
I
can
don't know,
hear
that's
me-
where you all come in. So
Sure, but I wanted to put it out there. Okay, thank you, Nora, for your question. Okay, that's something to think about and discuss. Okay, but yeah, thanks, Nora, for putting it out there. So any more questions, suggestions, comments from anyone for the task force and this commitment to join the Covenant of Mayors? Going once, going twice. Okay. Okay, so last thing I want to mention, and I mentioned this to Lisa this morning, and also to Jody, was that I had a chance over the weekend to tour the Richfield Recycling Center, and I got to see the component of organic recycling. So it's very cool. They work with an organization. I think I have it here. I forgot the name of them. I think it's called what are they called? Somewhere in my notes here. In any case, it's an organization it's sort of like an organization. Oh, here we go. It's the Housatonic Resources Recovery Authority, known as HRRA. And they work in collaboration with local DPWs across southwestern Connecticut. I think they have about, I want to say a total of 28 members who participate. And so they're charged with managing solid waste for all the municipalities. And so in particular, they do, pursue grants closely. And it was really cool to see how they were able to collect on the commercial side, that's dealt with the private sector. On the residential side, they do have a pretty good program where they do receive a lot of this organic matter using a specialized machine, a smart machine. I don't know what the thing was called, the Metro or something like that. And so they have all and then they're able to process the organic matter. And in the end, the output obviously is compost. And then compost given away to residents to use in their gardens or to use for regenerative purposes across the city. $20 for the residents to drop off organic matter, and I think it's around $50 for non-residents. And but it was great. It was a great tour. Got to learn a lot and how to kind of get a sense of city actually doing their own composting on site. I mean, they have the land and stuff. So if anyone here would ever like to take a tour, we can certainly arrange something. There were members of DEEP there as well. So there were also residents, and so there were other organizations as well. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. I thought it was pretty cool. And moving forward, if anyone wants to do a little trip, we can certainly do that. So that's my little experience. That was my Saturday afternoon, walking through compost and with boots and smelling life. Anyways, but Yes, Josh, I see you smiling.
I love it. Good for you, man.
Yeah, thanks. And so, but yeah, so yeah, so we should definitely do it. Whoever's interested will figure something out. So on that happy end, I will, if there's nothing else to discuss, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Taking my usual
Adjourn.
role, motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Lisa. All in favor? Yes. Nora, I'm assuming you are. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Jody, for these awesome 2 tasks, and we're going to keep working on them. But thank you so much for putting them forward and moving all of us forward on topics of sustainability. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
All
see
right.
some of you guys at Rec and Parks at 7.
Yep. Until next time, folks. All right. See you
All right.
guys
Thank
soon.
you.
Bye bye. Thanks, Tom. See ya.
Hey.